School walkouts all the way to the brackets. We got a busy show.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Taco Comfort Solutions.
Tough issues today, and then a little bit of a lighter note. You know, the school walkout situation going on in America today it's a tough one to tangle with, because I don't think we want to promote kids behaving in anarchical fashion, right? At the same time, there's a profundity of what happened in Parkland, Florida that I think touches us all, so we need to work it out. Dan McGowan, who covers schools and the city of Providence, is here to talk about that. We also going to have to touch on the speed camera, this situation going on at the school districts, and the 15 somewhat cameras that are projected for the city of Providence, and the turbulence that it's caused amongst the electorate, the constituents in Providence, people who say they'll never come to Providence again because they don't want to be ticketed, and the reaction from the General Assembly. And then our special treat, Mark Dondero, will join us and make really crazy picks, I'm certain. He's working on it as we speak. He is our local Einstein, and he will give McGowan and I something. McGowan fancies himself as a little bit of a basketball fan, and perhaps even an expert. So, you know, you coach a Little League team, you think you know everything. Let's go to the more important matters to start, though. This is a headline, and there's headlines, and there's headlines, and there's just more and more headlines. They just keep coming from all over the place. Why don't we put more up? There we go. And obviously it stems from what's happened in Parkland, Florida. We have video of Parkland, of course. That was the walkout onto the athletic fields today. And even here at home in East Providence, we have the same kind of thing going on here. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
I'm looking forward to your basketball guru-ness a little bit later on.
I want to get through this so we can go to Mark.
As a well, we'd all like to get through this.
That's
This conversation about gun safety in schools and all of that is just a horror show.
Yeah.
Absolute horror show. Now, you study the schools, you cover the schools, you cover the city of Providence. So where do we begin? What's happening in the city, first of all?
The city did they sort of put out a, I don't know if you even call it a press release. They made it clear they were opposed to students walking out of school. They took the side of, you know, that's a disturbance that isn't needed. Let's talk about it in school, that kind of thing. I'll be honest, we looked at, and I asked every district in the state to give me a breakdown of what their plans were. Some gave very thoughtful answers. We could talk about that in a second. Providence was one of the few that actually took a position of, we are not.
I think that's East Providence right there. You can tell the difference between Florida and East Providence by the snow.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Providence took the approach of not sanctioning it, but as we're taping this, their walkout has happened, and they are, I believe, the students are marching to the State House. A lot of them, probably several hundred, and so. There will be some, my guess is there will not be any real serious discipline. They'll probably get a letter home. They'll get an unexcused absence type of thing. But there's a lot of districts took this very seriously. Some had, you know, assemblies to have conversations about gun control, about what happened in Florida, things like that. I actually think that's a pretty thoughtful thing to do. I talked to the superintendent, Larry Filippelli, in Scituate. And he talked my ear off about this, and he said at the middle school level what they chose to do was take all of their students that wanted to express their views, and they put them all in an auditorium, and they said for that 17 minutes that these students that were killed in Parkland, you know, were going to be recognized, they asked them to introduce themselves to somebody that they didn't know in the room. At the middle school level, I thought that's a pretty thoughtful approach. It's meaningful. I really like that. I like hearing those kind of stories.
I think in this particular situation, if administrators don't embrace this, it's a learning experience both civically and on the issue itself that is probably missed.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
It's people, oh, the slippery slope, you know, now they'll be protesting all over, you know, no matter what, they'll walk out and protest. Well, maybe, and for that, they should be sanctioned. The message matters, the content matters, the reason matters.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, for obvious reasons, this Parkland tragedy resonates.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we haven't prepared our kids to speak about issues because we haven't prepared ourselves to speak about issues.
Yeah.
The adult literacy for civics and issues is at an all-time low. So what do we expect from the kids? You know, some high-level discussion? They actually instinctively are probably saying smarter things than many adults are saying at this point.
This is going to be really corny for me to say, but like kids talk about keeping it real. That's what kids do, right? They're just saying what's ever on their mind. And you know, when you watch students that aren't that much older than you, or in some cases are your age, gunned down in Parkland and, you know, at the younger level, obviously, in Connecticut a few years ago, I think it's natural that a lot of kids are concerned about it. I do think, and there's no question about it, and I know people in your, you know, are going to call into the radio today and say this, the people who tend to be, you know, activists and really driven tend to lean left, and so you're going to have, you know, the faces on television today generally talking about, you know, blaming Republicans, blaming the president, things like that.
There may be more activists on the left, so to speak, but there were hundreds at the State House last week in yellow shirts racing to protect specific gun rights.
Absolutely, no question
and
about it.
What's interesting about that, Dan, is that so you get, you know, yellow shirts in the hundreds trying to protect the AR-15. Some of those yellow shirts, so that was the Senate hearing.
Yeah.
You have some yellow shirts going to the House hearing, which was about the red flag law.
That's right.
Which is, I think, the most reasonable, constructive decision that we can make while we fight about weapons, and that is to enable police to get to a judge in an emergency and get to a crazy person who is showing evidence, social media or otherwise, that they want to hurt somebody.
Of course, yeah. I should say, when I say that.
But I mean, there's activists on both sides of the side, and the NRA has become like on steroids, which the way they've responded.
And I believe today in East Providence, Michaela McDonald, my colleague, was there covering their protests, and there was a handful of kids who were protesting the protest, and were wearing, I believe, an NRA hat or something like that. I think you're going to see that. My point is, broadly, what's happening today with the schools, you're seeing people who are, you know, generally pushing an agenda that would be more likely to identify with the left than the right.
Here's the thing that's going to be an interesting twist on this, and that is, how do parents deal with whatever repercussions students have for protesting? Right. And again, it might be nuanced. You might think that the school system is wrong in punishing or disciplining or sanctioning your students for walking out.
Right.
But you have to respect that the system decided to make a disciplinary decision there. That's what we'll be talking about on the radio. Obviously, we tape the TV before the radio. That confuses everybody. But we'll be talking about that today. Do we have enough sophistication on the part of parents to recognize that while they may have a point of view and the student may have a point of view, the authority here is the school system, and you have to roll with that punch.
My guess, though, and from the answers that we did get back from superintendents, most districts are not going to be disciplining kids. Even when Providence says, we don't sanction this, Providence isn't saying we're going to suspend you from school. There are times...
Providence doesn't have a bureaucracy. I mean, the bureaucracy is large enough. They don't have the capability of... No, they want the paperwork and zinging out thousands of kids.
You can't do. So, you know, a lot of the superintendents have said to me, especially the ones that called me, said, Dan, look, we're, you know, dancing a fine line here. We want kids to be able to protest. This is a meaningful thing, but you know, we need to keep order. We're probably not going to suspend anyone.
Right, so, you know, we'll make it a point in the next couple of weeks to bring in some of these student activists on this particular matter and talk about it. When we come back, the city of Providence engaged in a technical controversy, or a controversy of technology, and the picks still to come. Stay with us.
This is red light cameras on steroids.
I'm opposed to these types of video or photographic-based violation.
Do you know how hard it is to do 20 miles an hour? This is a money grab. Plain and simple. Someone will get rich off of this.
And that was a couple of years ago. The specific arguments about the technology that catches you speeding on the road. Right. Red light cameras are one thing. I think a lot of people have, it's a weak argument about running the red light.
Right. Pretty bad one.
It's like, it's hard for me to get on the radio and say, I want to legitimize Big brother shouldn't be stopping me running the red light. It's kind of like you run out of gas
Right.
for your argument. But the speeding thing, I think there's a condition and a culture, and actually written into law about customary and usual practice and flow of traffic speed that mitigates judicial decisions on the exact speed limit.
Right.
Having said that, the city that you so well cover, and nobody covers better than Dan, stepped in this one, didn't they?
They did.
Talk to me about this.
They had no idea that they knew this was going to be a moneymaker. They absolutely did.
And anyone that says that they did this purely for child safety is full of manure.
I can tell you I know it, not just because it's my gut instinct. I can tell you because I know how budgets get made and I understand politics, and this was always considered a moneymaker, no question about it. Now, does it also come with safety? Sure, of course it does. You don't essentially tax people or fine people without any sort of reason for it. But, they stepped in it because they didn't tell people in a really constructive way. I was in the room when the city council approved this. We had a 40-minute debate, handful of people talked about it. There was concerns here and there, but it was overwhelmingly approved. They sent out press releases when they put the cameras in. There was no education campaign. There were signs put up. I live in a neighborhood that has a speed camera. I noticed the signs go up. I noticed the big metal machine, but the lack of information that went out and the fallout that has stemmed from that is telling, for sure.
Brian Newberry is the state rep there, who asked the question, does anybody know how difficult it is to do 20 miles an hour? It is difficult to do 20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
You got to slow it down. Now, if you're in bumper-to-bumper traffic on Chalkstone Boulevard, heading up past Mount Pleasant, where unfortunately a teacher was killed crossing the road outside Mount Pleasant High School, which reportedly, allegedly inspired this legislation. Sorry for being, what's the word I'm looking for?
Skeptical?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Which is what every one of us should be whenever we're thinking about government decisions. Sorry to be a skeptic, but it's not that pure.
No, it isn't that pure. It is a good reason for the attempt by the city, which was more than just speed cameras to try to slow down the traffic on Mount Pleasant Avenue. That's the one that I live near. That situation a couple of years ago where a teacher was killed in a crosswalk was incredibly tragic. But here's the realistic thing that happened here. The company that does the speed cameras also does the red light cameras. They convinced the state this is a way to continue the safety, but it is also a revenue generator for municipalities. They say to the state, look, enabling legislation, no one has to do it, you can do it. Providence looks at this, and it doesn't start, it's not the mayor's level that this happens. It starts, with lower level staffers, and they say, it's an easy way to make a lot of money, millions of dollars. They didn't realize how much, but millions of dollars. And you can also, in theory, slow down traffic, home run.
Now,
that's how they look at it.
It seems to be true that the key lobbyist for the company was also the former chief of staff for the mayor.
That's right.
And so, politics and lobbying makes great
it looks awful,
strange bedfellows, right?
Yeah.
But you make a really good point. The state legislature, I asked the Speaker of the House about this on the radio on Monday. Why are we in this culture of state enabling legislation just to be able to, walk and chew gum at the same time for local municipalities? Can they make their own decisions? Can they generate their own organic legislation? Well, everything affects everything. Well, not really.
No.
But even the Speaker of the House, I think we've got a clip here, is backpedaling.
To address the fairness issue against the public safety, and children's safety has to be paramount.
But he's already saying, he recognized $95 ticket. Yeah. It was funny. I asked the DOT director in the storm yesterday, how much do you whack a truck for violating the no truck, ban for the duration of the storm? He's like, I don't know. I think it's like $85. I said, oh, really? You had a speed camera whacking people more than the trucks who are violating the weather emergency.
That's right.
It's like, come on.
Now, and I think there probably will be changes at the state level. It sounds like the speaker was on your radio show the other day talking about this too. I think you will see changes. Here's the thing, though. you know, for all those guys up there, especially ones outside of Providence, talk about how Providence is always grabbing for money. They always want to bail out. Well, guess what? You gave them the enabling legislation to bail themselves out in some ways. Now you're going to take it away. You better make them whole on this, and that seems to be something that's probably not going to happen. I think that's the way Providence is looking at it. I think it's actually fair.
I don't know. If it wasn't supposed to be about the budget, then your argument is specious.
Sure, except that it was supposed to be about the budget.
Well, they better be honest that it was about the budget before anybody gets made whole.
I do think, when I say made whole...
One must be honest about that.
That is true, although I would say, and when I say made whole, in fairness, what I mean is you can't just grab completely. You can't just say no more cameras because we don't like them. I think this is a part of the city's revenue. I think the city probably needs to be more honest, but it's a hard thing to do to take away potentially $25 million a year.
We'll leave it there. He's sticking around. We'll see what his picks are. And Dondero, the wild card, next.
Yes, I mean, exciting. I hope my brother Bob's got some pointers from some of his insiders at Duke, but we're going to have our work cut out for us versus Oklahoma, but it would be amazing to ever get a chance to play those guys.
That's Hurley on his challenges. Of course, his brother is in. You may have seen some of the Twitter feeds of Coach Hurley learning that his brother got in.
Did you see the video of Ruthie Polinsky pushing Dan Hurley out of a live shot?
Yeah.
No.
The Heisman.
The Heisman. Excellent video.
No.
He was in position a little too early. Yeah, it was great.
Oh, well, there's always shenanigans going on in the sports, the Eyewitness News sports department. Welcome, Mr. Dondero.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, Dan.
We have to figure out a way to approach this particular bracket this year because it feels unusual to me. Doesn't it feel unusual to you?
Feels unusual to me. Yeah, I agree.
What I said.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. It doesn't feel like there's one real team to beat to me. It feels open. I like that. It's a little different than what I'm used to. So I'm excited for this tournament. I was just saying to Dan before we got started that for me it was hard to identify sort of a sleeper, you know, a Cinderella, if you will. I'm sure there will be one. I just don't know who it is right now.
Any chance we'll get a 16 victory? When I look at Penn, why don't we throw some brackets up? It's hard to see the full bracket, but we put it up anyway. Everyone knows what we're talking about. And then we'll put it up in the different regions. The one thing that I find in terms of the power of a 16, I don't know why you label this team with a 16 seed, and maybe they don't deserve it, but I called on the radio 3 games involving Ivy League teams, Penn, Harvard, and Yale. And I've seen all the A-10 games and a couple of dozen Big East games this year. Those 3 teams can play with anybody.
Sure, listen.
So, what up?
Yeah, if Penn was playing Xavier 1 versus 16, I probably would pick Penn. I was so unimpressed with Xavier the other night in New York against Providence. Now, I know that was one bad game. They've had a good year. For them to be a 1 seed is laughable to me. I have no respect for that. So I think that it's a wide open tournament. Yeah, and Penn is really good.
Yeah, Penn's legit.
So Penn would have to play Kansas. Kansas is on a roll, so that would be in the Midwest bracket. I don't know if we can put that up. And poor Justice got to follow the nonsense of me every day. On the bottom, if you look at the bottom, actually up on the top, number 1 seed Kansas on the top, and Penn. Now I understand that's actually become kind of a runaway conversation in America. Like I said that on my show the other day, and then the sports guys are saying it's like the national social media pick.
Well, and after years of recently Harvard and Yale being very good and advancing in the tournament, the idea that Penn, who I think tied with Harvard to win for the top of the Ivy League in the regular season, the idea that they are a 16, I mean, I've been a 16 in years.
Yeah.
Years.
So I think like they got ripped off. I don't know what they're...
And no 16 has ever beaten a 1, obviously.
Right. So who knows?
Yeah.
All right. So that's the Midwest bracket, for which Rhode Island is actually in. If you can follow, the geographic notation for these brackets is really only about the regional. URI is going to Pittsburgh for Thursday at noon to play Oklahoma, which has lost 7 of the last 9.
What a great showcase, though, right? Yeah. Playing the best player in the country, the most exciting player
at
in the country.
Noon on CBS to kick the tournament off.
Yeah, Trae Young hasn't been as good down the stretch as we saw earlier in the season, but one of the most noteworthy guys in college basketball this year overall. I love URI in this game. I love them. We'll see what happens. Oklahoma, I believe, did not win a road conference game all season.
Right.
So I'm not picking them to go, to a neutral site in the tournament and beat this team. Now, URI had their struggles down the stretch, but they got it together a little bit in the conference tournament.
The only thing that worries me is the karma of the most complained about team generally goes on a little bit of a run.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't think Oklahoma belongs. A lot of people don't think ASU, Bobby Hurley's team belongs. So I get a little nervous about picking against them, but I think you're right. You with URI winning
I'm
first
totally
round?
with URI, and I'm by no
Can
means
they beat
a homer
Duke on Saturday?
I think the URI guards just assault Trae Young. He'll have nightmares about them. And can they beat Duke? I mean, Boston College beat Duke this year, so why not?
Very difficult, though. I wouldn't pick them.
I wouldn't pick them. I wouldn't pick them. They played Duke at the beginning of last year at Mohegan Sun, if you remember. Duke severely undermanned that day. URI was, hung around, I guess. So, look, anything could happen.
Providence has got the similar challenge. They're at 10 going against the 7 Texas A&M. That's in the West bracket, if you want to pop that up, Jess, if you have that, the West bracket. And then they run into another buzzsaw, North Carolina, if they win that. Do they get to North Carolina? Do they beat Texas A&M? Are they out of gas?
No, I think they beat Texas A&M. Texas A&M was 9-9 in conference this year. They had some good wins. I thought PC had more impressive wins. You could argue this game is sort of a toss-up. I'll pick Providence to win, probably because of what I saw in New York. They're riding high from that. I like them to win. They've been in the tournament. It annoys me that they once again will play North Carolina in North Carolina. I mean, every year we see this game. Give me something new, please. What are you doing? This committee annoying me.
I'm with him. I think PC wins. I think they struggle because for all the reasons that Mark just listed in, North Carolina is a very strong team. Could have easily been a #1 seed if they didn't play. They didn't play that great down the stretch, but.
Texas A&M has some length. I know Ed Cooley was talking about their NBA size. Providence has good size. It's all about Kyron Cartwright. Does he show up? Does he have that look in his eye?
Make some free throws,
if he can make his shots, make some free throws, and lead this team on the court with his play, they'll be right there to win.
But both you guys think our local teams are coming home and we won't have one in the regional?
No, 2-0.
You don't
I mean,
think so?
I'm not going to pick that, no. But if it wouldn't be shocking if one of them did go on a bit of a run. I would lean towards URI.
So who's our Final Four?
You know what? We were just talking about Cinderella's off air. I think it's going to be chalk. I think it's all the #1 seeds go to the finals.
Really?
And I know people say Xavier's they're not that good. They've got a great little path. They're going to win their first round game. They're going to play Missouri in the second round.
So
That's
Kansas,
a nice
Villanova, Virginia, and Xavier go to the Final
I think
Four.
Virginia wins the title.
I'm taking no #1s. Cincinnati, North Carolina, Michigan State, and Purdue. Now, do I feel great about that? I don't feel great about that. I picked the Patriots to go 19-0.
Why do I feel like every time you come on this show, I feel like a psychiatrist who just, how do you feel about that? I really don't feel great about that. Well, we'll do some more work in the next session. We'll do some more work.
I will say,
but we're out of time now, and your bill will be $150 for the hour.
I did peg Providence absolutely correctly down the stretch. They did exactly what I said they would do. So, maybe I'm hot.
You're always hot.
Always.
All right. We'll be right back. Coming up tomorrow night, we will have Neil Steinberg from the Rhode Island Foundation. They're doing kind of a, rotating, moving focus group, trying to see what Rhode Islanders are thinking about. And past that, I'm not exactly sure what the mission is, but we'll find out tomorrow. We're off at 7:30. We will be on at midnight. CBS moves the games to... Whenever there's games, there's no 7:30. We'll see you at midnight. Good night.